Today we have a very special video. I'm going to be ranking summer yarns for people who actually live somewhere hot. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and this is Sarah Kate Knits. On my channel, I like to talk about all things knitting, primarily stuff that I'm working on, but today, as you've seen, we have a very special video about summer fibers. As a knitter in a warm climate, a lot of fibers are restricted most of the year, and so I felt that it would be really helpful to other knitters who live in warmer areas to see my tier list of 12 summer fibers that I've used. I'll be giving each of these fibers a Florida score, sort of ranking how well it will hold up against the Florida heat, humidity, and bugginess. So today I'm going to be ranking these yarns on an S through D tier list, except I've come up with my own Florida specific categories. So the first category for today is Florida approved. This will withstand any weather. You can wear this in the hottest day, the muggiest day. You wear it with your sunscreen, you wear it to the beach, you wear it on a hike, you wear it with the mosquitoes. These are all very Florida things. Florida approved A++ or S tier. The next tier is porch safe. Still pretty good in the warm weather, but maybe wanting some shade for this. Maybe we don't do direct sunlight in this yarn. The next category is AC preferred. This is going to be something that I'd probably wear to work, where I'm in AC most of the day, but you know, if I step outside into the 90-degree Florida heat, I won't immediately melt. The next category is cold front only. So these are yarns that I'm really only going to pull out if we have a more brisk kind of morning or, you know, a chillier day. Again, summer is really never chilly. This would be like a kind of almost like a spring type yarn. And then the last category, the D category, is humidity jail. This is something that is not breathable, something that you would never wear in any kind of direct sunlight. While all of these yarns I do like, putting something in humidity jail doesn't mean that the yarn is bad, it's just not suitable for Florida weather. So I've got my computer here where I'm looking at my notes, so let's just get right into this ranking. So what I mean when I say ranking summer yarns is these are all going to be fibers with at least a little bit of cotton, silk, or linen content. So first up in our cotton blends list is Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. I use this yarn in my Sunday tee by PetiteKnit and the twist loop top that I made for my mom. So I've used this yarn twice. It is a fingering weight yarn. It is 70% cotton and 30% merino. So again, primarily cotton, very popular yarn for summer knits. The Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino was one of the first Knitting for Olive yarns I ever used, so I was really excited when I used it for my Sunday tee. I was very pleased with the finished object, but I started to notice if the day was really, really hot, the little bits of wool would really I'd start to feel them on my chest. And it would start to get kind of sensitive. And I know that this is, you know, this is pretty customary for any level of wool in any yarn. The warmer you are, the more you'll feel the prickliness. And so that's why Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino is going to be AC preferred for me. I do think the wool content in the fiber, you know, sort of adds some elasticity that some knitters prefer. Some knitters really don't like using cotton because of how unstretchy it is. I think the wool content within it does make it maybe better to work up, but for Florida ranking, it's got to be AC preferred. Next up, we have the Rowan Summerlite 4-ply. That's actually the yarn that I use to make what I'm wearing right now. This is one of my pie camisoles. I've also made another pie camisole in Rowan Summerlite 4-ply in the pickles color. I've used it for my Alpine Bloom tee, which was a colorwork sweater or a colorwork tee with a cotton as the main fiber and then some stock yarn for the colorwork. Rowan Summerlite 4-ply, I don't know if you've watched any of my other videos, but Rowan Summerlite 4-ply is one of my favorite yarns ever. It is 100% Egyptian cotton. It is so soft. It's a fingering weight yarn, so it's really great for summer knits. We've got that thin yarn, smaller gauge. And so I personally have to say that Rowan Summerlite 4-ply is Florida approved. This is the kind of yarn that you can sweat in, you can wear sunscreen, you can go for a hike. I mean, I don't really wear knits to go on hikes, but you know what I mean. You can wear it to the beach and you can just wash it all out. It's, you know, it'll absorb the sweat a little bit, but because the cotton is so hardy and cooling, like cooling on the body, it's just so comfortable to wear in the hottest days. And, you know, washing the cotton, even in the washing machine, I don't do that. I wash everything by hand, but I feel like you could get away with washing it in the washing machine. Um, and it'll just withstand all of that. I fully support Rowan Summerlite 4-ply. It's one of my favorites ever. Okay, next up we have CoBaSi by HiKoo. This is a fingering weight yarn. It's 55% cotton, 21% nylon, 16% rayon and bamboo, and 8% silk. So I think that's why it's called CoBaSi, like cotton, bamboo, silk. So it's kind of everything. I like this yarn. I only bought one skein of it from Starlight Knitting Society just to try it out. I did use it in my scrappy Olga jacket, so not a summer knit. Of course, I did get a good feel for the yarn while I was knitting it and sort of the overall composition of that sweater. So it is a pretty twisty kind of yarn. Like it's not as smooth looking as the Rowan Summerlite 4-ply or the Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. It's kind of, you can see the twist. But it does have a very like cooling cotton bamboo kind of feel. But I think because of the nylon content, it can be a little bit stuffier. So that is why I'm going to give the HiKoo CoBaSi a porch safe ranking. I think maybe I'd have to make an entire garment out of CoBaSi to really give it my full ranking, but from what I can tell in the Olga jacket and while working it up, it's a little bit stuffier than some of the other yarns that I'm reviewing today. Next up in our cotton category is Berroco Modern Cotton DK. So this is the first DK weight yarn that I'm covering. It's kind of a light DK. When I used it for my blouse #1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And it was kind of off gauge because it's not really a true DK, it's really a light DK, which is good in terms of summer garments. I also used a little bit of it in my Olga jacket. It's the teal stripe. So yeah, I've had a good amount of use with this. This yarn is 60% cotton and 40% rayon. So it's got a little bit more of that stuffier kind of rayon in it, but it does overall have like a cooling cotton kind of feel. While the blouse #1 is a long sleeve blouse and I made it to be almost like a spring kind of item or an indoors kind of item, I think I'm gonna have to give the Berroco Modern Cotton DK porch safe. Because that cotton content is high enough where it's such a cooling kind of fiber. And even with the long sleeves, I am comfortable outside in the shade pretty easily. That also may have to do with the gauge of my blouse #1. It's a pretty open gauge, but that yarn is really quite cooling for what it is, but it's not exactly Florida approved. It's definitely a little bit stuffier than your Rowan Summerlite 4-ply, that 100% cotton. I think that it's probably the rayon in it that's adding to that. All right, next up in our cotton category is Hobbii Twister Solid. This is a sport weight yarn. It is 55% cotton and 45% acrylic. I used this in the Northland sweater that I made for my partner, as well as my scrappy Olga. These are not summer garments, obviously, but I made them with primarily cotton fibers to sort of make a Florida winter garment, like a winter garment that isn't wool. I can wear wool and I can wear alpaca every now and then, but it's best to have cotton garments for a lot of the fall and winter because we just don't get that cold very quickly. So I have a good understanding of how these yarns feel and how they've held up and how they trap heat. And the Hobbii Twister Solid, I think because of the acrylic content, is gonna have to get a cold front only from me. And I wouldn't want to make like a summer tee out of the Twister Solid, just because it's almost half acrylic and it will kind of get stuffy and like sweaty and stuck to you. So cold front only for the Twister Solid. It is really comfortable in like Florida fall and Florida winter, but for Florida summers, absolutely not. All right, next we have the Juniper Moon Farm Cumulus. This is an Aran weight yarn. It's 94% Israeli Mako cotton and 6% nylon. I used it in my Frankie sweater. So by PetiteKnit, it's that green and white striped sweater. It's the white stripes. This I got because I had never felt cotton like that before. It is so fluffy and plush. It almost feels like a blown cotton. I don't know anything about Israeli Mako cotton, but it's very soft and almost fluffy. This on the Florida score scale in terms of summer fibers is humidity gel. This is so, it's so warm. It almost functions like a wool in that sweater that I used it in. Obviously, I didn't use it in a summer garment. Um, I would never use it in a summer garment. An Aran weight summer garment just doesn't make any sense to me. But I did want to include it in this video just because it is almost 100% cotton. So for all of you out there who are a knitter in a warmer climate, the Juniper Moon Farm Cumulus is fully not a summer knit, but it is definitely a very comfortable, warm autumn, somewhat into winter fiber. So yeah, it's definitely stuffy. It definitely traps your warmth in. But if you're wanting to make a sweater out of cotton just because wool bothers you or it's too warm, I would highly recommend the Juniper Moon Farm Cumulus. All right, next up we have Berroco Bozzolo. This is another kind of funky cotton yarn. I picked it up in Starlight Knitting Society when I was in Portland. It is a worsted weight yarn. It is 100% Italian cotton, and I used it in my second blouse number 1. It's sort of that oatmeal colored blouse number 1. This yarn I find very similar to the Juniper Moon Farm Cumulus. It's very plush, like very bouncy almost. Feels like a blown yarn even though it's cotton, very soft, but it does trap the heat in. It's not as dense as the Cumulus, and that is why I'm going to have to give the Berroco Bozzolo cold front only. Because it's cotton, it does, sort of have a cooling effect on the skin. But because of the thickness and the sort of plushness, it's got to be cold front only. I would never make a summer tee out of Bozzolo, but what would be comfortable is like a cardigan maybe, just because of how plush it is. It kind of holds its shape pretty well. So I feel like a cardigan with Bozzolo for like, early spring would be fantastic. And then last in our cotton category is Cascade Cotton Sox. This is a fingering weight yarn. It is 89% cotton, 11% nylon. I grabbed this once, probably in the same order that I got that single skein of CoBaSi in, but I got a single skein of Cascade Cotton Socks. I was originally going to make like summer socks, but I got white, so I was kind of scared of like making hand knit white socks. I just figured they would get stained immediately, but I didn't have enough to make a whole tank top, so I used it in my scrappy Olga jacket as well. This is a very thick fingering. It almost feels like a sport weight. And the cotton is so dense. It's denser than the Bozzolo. It's almost denser than the Cumulus. The Cascade Cotton Socks I have to put in humidity gel because it's just so dense and it's so stiff. Like it's stiffer. It's the kind of thing that people don't like about cotton yarns. It's so stiff, like not stretchy at all. And it almost feels like chalky. I don't know. I love how it looks in my Olga jacket. I think it made a really nice structured button band, but I would never make a summer knit out of it. I would fully reserve it for little bits in a sweater. I wouldn't even make a whole sweater out of it just because it's not very soft. So it's gonna be sweaty. It's gonna be sticky. It's just so stiff. So sorry, Cascade Cotton Sox, you're in humidity jail. Moving on to our linen blends, I'm going to start with Tynn Line by Sandisgarn. It is a fingering weight yarn. It is 53% cotton, 33% rayon, and 14% linen. I guess because it is 53% cotton, it should probably be in the cotton category, but none of the other cotton blends had linen in them, so I've decided to leave it in the linen category. This I used in my most recently finished Audrey top. I held it double, just because it's really quite thin. It's a light fingering for sure. So I used this in my most recent Audrey top, and then I'm working on a Lyra tee currently with a single strand of Tynn Line. It's definitely a little bit off gauge, but it's really, really sort of drapey and cool. This yarn I cannot give enough praise to. This yarn is, again, it's a summer fiber. Linen is pretty stiff, so when you're knitting with it, it does feel almost ropey. It's pretty like tight when you're knitting with it, maybe even less stretch than cotton. So, you know, if you really hate that, then maybe you wouldn't like it, but the finished product is so drapey. That Audrey top that I recently finished in the Tynn Line held double is so cooling. It's more cooling than cotton. It's so light, it's so drapey, it's so breathable, it's durable. Like linen softens each time you wash it, but it's still so durable. I have no worries about pilling or it sort of degrading over time. It has just all of the stitch definition has stayed put. It keeps me so cool. I wear it to the pool regularly. I would wear it with sunscreen because I have a lot of faith in being able to wash out sunscreen and sweat and all of that. So the Tynn Line by Sandisgarn is Florida approved. I truly, really do love this yarn. I'm currently using it in another color work project. I'm working on the King Salmon Light by Caitlin Hunter, and I'm using it as part of the color work. So I'm really excited to have such a cooling, comfortable summer fiber in a summer color work project. Next up in our linen category is Kelbourne Woolens Mojave. This is a sport weight yarn. It's a pretty thick sport weight. It is 60% cotton and 40% linen, so it has quite a bit of linen content. Something to be mindful of for these linen blends is linen is kind of stringier than cotton. Like sometimes you'll have some strands within the main yarn strand that are pretty stiff and kind of stick out. I'd say it's worth it for the comfort that linen provides. It's just so breathable and so flowy in even the hottest, stickiest weather. The Kelbourne Woolens Mojave I used in my berry tee. I used it in that striped tee with a sock yarn. So again, there was wool content in the whole garment itself, but I do have a really good kind of feel for how the Mojave behaves. Because it's so thick, it's a pretty thick sport weight strand. It's almost like a light DK. I think I'm gonna have to put the Kelbourne Woolens Mojave in porch safe. It's not as breathable as your Tynn Line or your Rowan Summerlite 4-ply. So that is all for the linen blends. Again, this is a very cotton dominated video. But yeah, that is all for the linen blends I've tried. And on to our last category, the silk blends. So first up in our silk category is the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. I've used this yarn twice. I used it for my June Top Light by PetiteKnit and a Ranunculus by Midori Hirose. It's a fingering weight yarn. It is 100% silk. I used it single strand in my June top and double strand in my ranunculus. And this yarn is one of my favorites ever. I'll just tell you right now, Knitting for Olive Pure Silk is Florida approved. It is so breathable and so drapey. It is soft, but not the kind of soft where it like sticks to you. It just sort of flows around. It's so the breeze would blow through it. Um, I am not worried about sweating in it. It's really easy to wash. I feel like after every wash, it gets even softer, almost like linen. Um, I just love this yarn, and I know that a lot of other people do too, just because of how much it's recommended for various summer knit patterns. 100% Florida approved stamp on Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. If it weren't as expensive as it is, I would make more garments in it. I just hesitate, to get more than 3 balls at a time because it can add up quickly for, one summer t-shirt, but I highly recommend it if you haven't tried it. Um, it's so, so comfortable. And the last yarn that I'm talking about today is the Bad Sheep Mulberry Silk Fingering. This is a fingering weight yarn. It's 100% mulberry silk. I picked up a limited edition colorway at Fuzzy Goat Yarns. It's called Georgia Peach Sangria, and I used it in the first Audrey top that I knit. I actually used it in my Ophelia top as well, but I frogged that because I didn't like how the armholes were fitting. You could see me talk all about that in another video, but now it is currently existing as my Audrey top, my first Audrey top, and I held that double to make that Audrey top. It is very soft. It is very smooth. Knitting with it is honestly a dream. It's a little slippery, so like I would maybe use wooden needles and not metal, because the metal needles can be really quite slippery with silk that silky. It's definitely a lot silkier than like the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. Um, but I'm going to have to give it AC preferred because it can be a little bit sticky. I think the way that the mulberry silk is, it's got that kind of like slick kind of feeling to it. And so if you were sweating or like outside or wearing sunscreen, it would kind of stick to your skin, unlike the Knitting for Olive silk. So I'm gonna have to give it AC preferred, even lower than porch safe, because of how sort of sticky it can be. It's definitely more of like an inside fiber, despite being pure silk. I do recommend it. It hasn't held up amazingly well. Granted, I kind of have abused mine because I knitted up into a top, unraveled it, washed it, knitted up again, washed it again. So mine's been pretty battered. Um, but yeah, I'm noticing some kind of pilling and like spots where the silk just kind of wants to like pull off. So, it's not a super durable yarn. I would recommend it for something that you would maybe want to wear to the office during the summer. Something for inside, something nice, like because the silk is also quite expensive too. That the mulberry silk is expensive. So, if you were using it to make something quite ornate like the Ophelia top, just don't make your armholes too small like I did. But yeah, if you're trying to make something ornate like the Ophelia top, or something that you only wear to work or to special occasions, I'd recommend it. It's just not like a workhorse kind of yarn where you can wear it to the pool, you can wear it to the beach, and it'll be fine. I hope you've enjoyed this comprehensive run through of all of the summer fibers that I have used. When I first started knitting, I thought that I was at a disadvantage because I live in Florida in such a warm climate, but with great summer yarns like these, you have plenty of options to work with, and you have so much variety in terms of tanks, tees, thin long sleeves, thin cardigans. I'm hoping to make more cotton-based cardigans in the future just because they're more comfortable for me. And there's lots of great yarns out there, as I've demonstrated today. I hope that I introduced you to some yarns that you've never used before or have wanted to use. Hopefully this can give you some insight into what you might be using for your next summer knits. Feel free to comment down below any summer yarns that you've enjoyed using. Let me know what you thought because I'm always looking for more summer fibers to try out. Thank you again so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Happy knitting!